my preliminary research tells me that perhaps less than 50% of the works of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad have been published in English. So why less than? Where are the other works? Why aren't the complete works? You can go into any library, or you might have it here in your books, Adnan. You get the complete works of William Shakespeare, one volume. Why can't we have the complete works of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad in English in one volume? When you translate them into English, then they can be translated into other languages, other major world languages like Spanish, Arabic, and so on.
Very good question. Because Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was supposed to be the Messiah to humanity.
Yes, all humanity, everyone.
And the English language is the most widely spoken language in the world today. It's the lingua franca of the civilized world. Okay, Brother Imtiaz, please answer the question.
We are telling this for last 1 year, that whatever Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has written, when you put everything in its totality on any topic, it becomes something indefensible. For example, there are 3 major issues between Muslims and the Ahmadiyya community. One is the prophethood. Is it continued or has it finished? Second is, has Jesus died or is he alive in heavens? And third is about his second coming. Will it be literally Jesus coming back or somebody else in the likeness of Jesus? Now, in these 3 fundamental issues, if all the writings are put together, the narrative becomes indefensible. So for this reason, they are translating the works selectively to avoid this problem. So now in this past 1 year, the reason that this the live streams are really painful for this Ahmadiyya movement, because now we are presenting the complete narrative, because both of us, we have our native language as Urdu. So we can access the primary source materials, i.e. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's writings. So when we go through his writings and present the complete narrative on any subject, they have no response. So this is the fundamental reason, i.e. they want to hide the complete narrative of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani on any issue.
And tell me, it just occurred to me when you were saying that, where would the original works of be in the world? The originals of all his books.
Yeah.
Do they still exist?
I would say that if original means that the copies which left the pen of Mirza or subscribed of Mirza,
first edition.
So I don't believe they exist. They must exist, because ever since Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was writing all of that, because they were basically they were the primary text for the Jamaat, so they must have been preserved in theory, but in practicality I don't think they exist. And the reason, look, again, this is my own hypothesis, somebody can challenge me on this one, that they have done massive editing in the works of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Obviously, if I will start giving examples, it will be beyond the scope of this one podcast. But because the books have gone through massive editings, now they have this fear, they had this fear, and most of this work of systematically destroying the works, the original works, happened in the time of the 4th Caliph Mirza Tahir. And the reason is, they had this fear that if one day any historian like Adnan Rashid Bhai, if they are able to have access to the actual original works, and they compare to what is in the market now, they have a big problem. I'll give one example. In one of his writings, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani actually wrote that God has instructed him to cut off the complete ties with the rest of the Muslims. Now this text is so problematic because they are preaching love for all, and Mirza is cutting the ties with the very Muslims. So this was problematic text. So they have done the editing. So in the current versions, this complete word is missing. Bakulli, the Urdu word is bakulli, which means absolute, in totality, totally. So this is the reason that they have done the massive editing, because some of the works were published after Mirza Ghulam Qadiani passed away. So basically what I'm saying, Declan, is that if we mean by originals that the copies which left Mirza's pen,
yes,
then
the original,
then my research is they don't exist. And the reason is because they have done the massive editing, and if people have access to those original copies and then they compare with the published one we have right now in our hands, they'll be in big trouble. And if Jamaat claims, for example, that they do have the originals, then I give them an open invitation that then I will prove to you that if you have the originals, they are not going to match with which we have today.
Well, I'd be surprised if they didn't have the originals, because they have some of his clothes, because the current caliph still wears his coat on special occasions. So they've kept his clothes. Yeah. I should imagine they would have kept all his writings.
No, not really. You know why? Because keeping his clothes is part of the business, because they're gonna basically use those clothes as to uplift the emotions of the cult members, to get more and more donations.
There is a deeper problem, Declan. This individual had followers while he was alive, and some of those followers were affluent, very influential as well, some of them, okay, albeit in a small number, but they were there. And they knew by 1902, or they had come to believe, that he is a prophet of God. some of them. And if he's a prophet of God, they surely should have taken care of his writings, which are basically holy. This is God's word on paper.
And he would have handwritten all these.
Exactly. And we have reports that he was busy writing and reading for long hours. He was writing for long hours because a lot of these books that are attributed to him were actually written by him. And there are other works that are disputed, whether he actually wrote them or not. This is a controversy that will go on forever. The point is, where are those original writings? We know the Jamaat made an excuse about Brahine Ahmadiyya because it wasn't completed. It wasn't finished. They claimed later on that it was burnt, without giving any details. But what about 80 odd other books?
Yes, absolutely.
Where are the manuscripts?
Close to the time of his death.
Where are the originals? Where are the manuscripts? So the question is, if the Jamaat has those originals, it should open up the doors for the researchers to come in and actually look into them.
Them on display in the big mosque.
They should have been. I mean, they have the money. The Jamaat has the money. They are building projects and they are doing a lot of mosque projects around the world, and they are buying buildings to open up the branches. So they have the money.
So would you say, Mohammed, that if you were to guess or that the originals probably have been destroyed?
That's what my belief is at this stage.
Right. Okay. So if we were to do translations, it would be
based. Yeah, it would be based on the current. Yes.
Revised from the original.
And
but we still, even with the revised, at this stage, I would settle. I would settle for that. His complete works in English.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, as Adnan hinted already, we can present circumstantial evidence from within the text, internal evidence that these are not writings of one person.
Yes, no, absolutely. Skilled people can always spot that. It's called feature creep or something.
Yeah.
If you and I wrote something together, a skilled editor would know that that's not the continuous.
Hence the debate on Shakespeare. Hence the debate on Shakespeare. Scholars are still arguing today that Shakespeare is actually not the author of his works. Because of the high level of learning demonstrated in those works, and because Shakespeare, he never completed his school, so people think that he wasn't actually the author. So this is a very living science.
It's like a literary forensic examination.
Exactly.
And for a layman, I give them simple example, and Adnan Bhai knows this because of being a Urdu native speaker, that we had these two different writing styles in different eras. For example, one is called wo avenge, wo javenge. This is a typical style. He will come or he will go, but the way you say this or the way you draft this thing, the expression. Now the other one later part was wo aayenge, wo jayenge. But the interesting thing is, Mirza is writing if within that same era. How come you have found both of those styles in his writings? Because when we look at the other writers, they are using either one of them. One writer is not using both styles of writing. But within Mirza's writing, number one, we find both styles. Number two, the level of contradictions. It's hard to believe that one person can contradict his speech or statement at this level.
Well, I'm glad you have said that, because I was going to ask you, because obviously you're a researcher into Ahmadiyya literature and you've read most of his works or all of his works. What's your verdict?
You know, in terms of, for example, obviously once you're reading any work, okay, the first thing is the literary beauty in that work. It's just coincident. As a Muslim, I'm sitting in a state of ablution, and I can say this under oath. There is zero literary beauty in his writings.
Really?
Zero. It's a painful exercise to read Mirza Gulam Qadiani for many reasons. One is there's no literary beauty. Two is too much unnecessary repetition. If you read 10 pages, you may end up reading one event maybe 5 times.
So it's very
repetitive.
Long-winded.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And third thing is, I have not come across, and you may have in English, but I don't know, but in Urdu, I have not come across any author. For example, you give a main text and then you give a footnote. Mirza Gulam Qadiani gives main text, then footnote, then a footnote to explain the footnote. And sometimes this footnote to explain the footnote goes so long, you forget the actual text. So that's not the style of a well-versed author, So I can go on and on, but I can say in a nutshell, it's very difficult to, or I would say that there are two types of people. They can read Mirza Gulam Qadiani in totality. One is a researcher, because he has to. Secondly, if possible, a devout missionary, because I have not come across up till this time. I have interacted, Adnan Bhai already, with most of their missionaries. I have not come across a single one of them who I can say that he knows 50% of his work.
Really?
Yes.
I would have thought that those young missionaries, that they would have been...
Razi has claimed that he has read his
works. It would be compulsory to...
For example, Razi, Ustad mentioned about the Razi. I asked Razi, I said, Razi, what is the description or definition of Mirza Gulam Qadiani about what is a miracle?
Did he know?
He did not know this.
He did not know.
I repeated my question, and then I had to give him the definition, and then still I said, okay, now can you explain this definition? He wasn't able to. And then he would always say, oh, we are not the, I can understand, and I agree. Nobody can claim, neither can I claim, that I know everything in my memory. I can't claim that. But at least I know the major concepts. Now, what is a miracle is a major concept. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that either a researcher would take the pain of reading his entire work, or a very devout missionary would read his total work, and no such missionary up till today exists.